Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the New Jersey Film Festival Filmmaker Q&A. And today we have a wonderful Q&A lined up for you for an amazing film that we will be screening in September as part of the 40th anniversary. Yes, we've been running the film festival for 40 years. I founded the New Jersey Film Festival back in 1982, and this will be the 40th installment. And we'll have a two-part celebration since the festival is biannual and is aligned with the university calendar at Rutgers. That we have a fall festival that will take place between September 10th and October 10th on Fridays and Sundays. And because of COVID, it will be a hybrid festival, which means that we will be doing some live screenings, but there will be face coverings required. I don't know if vaccination will be required yet because we're really at the mercy of the university since they will determine how our participants and patrons can come to our live screenings. The space seats 250, but there will be a reduced capacity. We'll let 60 or 70 people in. And then if you don't want to come to the live screening, you can do it via the internet. And you can see this film over the course of 24 hours. And you can watch it that way if you prefer. And I know a lot of people prefer it that way because it's safer. So today we have Vivianne Perlmutter and Isabelle Ingold. They are the filmmakers for the wonderful film Ailleurs Partout, which is in French, in Farsi, in English. It's a film about a refugee, Shahin, who is escaping the trials and tribulations in Iran and making his way for quote unquote safe havens in the UK. And I guess I wanted to ask you about, I'll ask you the first question and then I'll also introduce you to Ashley Terer, who was one of the judges at our festival. Although I don't believe she watched this film as a judge. She got to watch it to be part of this Q&A, and she'll be asking the directors questions as well. But my first question is, since I'm very familiar, Vivianne and Isabelle, you were also part of Uncertain Times, which we screened at the New Jersey International Film Festival back in June of 2013. And I was lucky enough to meet Vivianne in person then, and she was a guest at our festival. And I noticed some similarities between the two films, although they're quite different the way that they're set up. One is a narrative feature where we follow the trials and tribulations of a young author, played wonderfully by Christine Dory. And this one is a kind of faceless look at a real person, Shaheen Parsa, is that his correct name? Yeah. So do you see similarities in your two works? I mean, I see tons of them, and I'm going to point the ones out that I think, but is there a connection between these two works? I know you're the filmmaker, Vivianne, and there's that connection for sure, but do you see both films kind of in the narrative realm? Since one seems to lean more towards documentary and the other is definitely a fiction film, I still see elements of autobiography and elements of non-narrative elements as well as narrative elements in both of your movies.
Well, I'd like to hear what you saw as similarities, but what I can say at first is that both are a journey where people change. And one is a feature film, but there is shots of documentary in it. And this one is a documentary, but there is a line of a fiction narrative. So it's quite mixed, both of them. And one thing that is important and link the two films, and it's important for us in this movie, is always to refresh the way we look at things. Even daily, tiny things. How can we look twice when we think we know it all? And it can anesthetize our emotion. I think it's one of the things that is very important for us.
Yeah, for sure. And I know Ashley's back great. I think the thing about Ailleurs Partout is a film that is, we don't see the subject. We hear his voice. And I think you wanted him to be anonymous to kind of underscore the plight of the refugee, where they're heard but not seen, or where they become a kind of generic all refugees, which is something that adds to the power of your film, where even though we enter his mind, I think that's, you know, the, the connections that I saw with some of your earlier work is that they both seem very dreamlike, and they both have oniric elements where, you know, we are bombarded with information. We have textual information, we have overlapping voiceover with dialogue. And I think this brings us into a kind of very dreamlike sphere. But, you know, it's all about a real person and the real trials and tribulations that a refugee is going through. Did you feel as if you wanted to focus on this atmospheric, dreamlike quality to this film?
And the film opens with a dream.
Yeah.
Yes, because this dream is a way to balance between report the worrying state of the world and the tough aspects of Shaheen's journey. And at the same time, there are other layers of our life. And there is this layer that the film itself tried to perform, which is, there is a nice word expression of German writer Goethe. He says, imagination for the real. It's not imagination to escape reality, but it's to desire to face the reality, but to at the same time desire another one and to make it happen, even bits, but make it happen. So this dream thing is a way, and also because our point was to follow the inner journey of Shahin, as you said. So it's a logic like a dream, because you change, you associate thoughts, and so it's this very deep logic that we try to reach.
Cool. Ashley?
So there are very few shots in this film where we're actually like close to someone. Is there a reason for that?
We decided to construct on the editing kind of progression, and so it starts with no man's land, then you see the cities, then we really wanted this to build this very low, slow approach to the faces of people. So we carefully managed, and we had lots of images, and we built that from landscape to cities to street to town, and then silhouettes, and then finally faces of people.
And
but at the same time, it's true that also we had an interview with a lawyer to know what we could do with the image that we were having from the internet. And one was important was that the people should not be recognized. So, but that's not the main reason why we first did this, build this progression.
And the film also starts in extreme darkness, and there's a slow build to light as we work our way through the opening scene, which you said was very dreamlike. So it seems that's perfect way to introduce the film. It also seems to tie into the fact that he's on this journey by water, I guess, to Greece. And so there's so many interesting parallels in the development of the film, how it all comes together. The first time I saw it, I was a little, you know, I was fighting the film, and I realized that I needed to just flow with the film. And the second time I watched it, I realized the whole end of that opening sequence where we hit the lighthouses shed light on the process of how you made this film. And I think going from extreme long shot to kind of obscurity to slowly revealing and then opening up in terms of light is fascinating. And I also think the narrative, the voiceover, and the whisperings, right? The chuchotage, I guess is the word, reminded me a lot of Chris Marker's La Jetée. I know in another Q&A, somebody brought up Sans Soleil, but I first thought of La Jetée because it's all a film about memory. And I see your film is really tied to memory as much as it is about dream and reality.
About memory, yes, yes, absolutely.
Am I way off?
Good. And we didn't think directly to Chris Marker, but we love Sans Soleil and La Jetée, so it's layered in us, so it's there. It's there. And what I want to say is that I'm very happy of your experience of the film, because we wanted not only that the film will be a film about a journey, but a journey in itself, so that the audience has to go through it in their turn. So it's like when Shahin, when foreign people comes to a foreign country, it's very confused. He hasn't has his bearings, so it's a low thing to understand what's going on, and we want people to feel that, to be lost, as Shahin was, not only to talk about it, but to feel it, that it's an experience, and not only to the smartness of the audience, but the body, that it's physical. You don't know where you are at first, it's dark, there is a road, what is it? And then, yes, bit by bit, you see the lights of the city and you understand a bit what's going on, but not right away.
Very cool. It's like a flower that's slowly opening. That's what the metaphor that I thought of as I was watching the film. Ashley, feel free to jump into the conversation.
So do you know where Shaheen is today?
Yeah, of course. And it's strange, it stayed in the same place, in this little town that he didn't like so much, as you can hear in the film. And so he worked in a takeaway that was owned by an Iranian family for 2 years. He was working a lot, almost all the time, because he wanted to save money, because a few weeks after he got his paper in UK, his parents divorced, and so he sent all the saving he has to his mother, because she wanted to buy a car to become a taxi driver in Iran. And then she had an accident, so she had another project, which was to have a takeaway also in Iran. So she was working with a sister of Shahin in a takeaway, and then the COVID arrived. So it was a very tough situation, and for Shahin also, because everything was closed down or in a very low. So he lost quite a lot of kilos. And we saw him because he came to see some families in Belgium. So we saw him last September. And we have news, and now he has another project. He's taking care of puppies. And it seems to be a good business in UK. So it's a different kind. And I think it's more like because he's a very independent guy. Very, I think he's the businessman in himself.
So he's in London, right? He's in London?
No, it's a little town.
A little
small town in the UK.
Not it's close to Sheffield.
You said that he was not very happy there. Is that still the case?
I guess he's happy enough to stay where he is, and I think he wants to build, to stabilize also his life. And as he explained, he cannot play so much because he doesn't have anyone who can back up him. So he's alone, mostly. So probably he's trying to widen his network from where he is, and then he can fly further. But for the time being, he has to be careful.
It's not easy being an immigrant in a strange land, and that ties into the fact that Vivianne, being an immigrant in another place, since you're Brazilian and you're an immigrant, I'm an immigrant too. My parents came from Turkey, and they're also Jews, Turkish Jews that immigrated. And it was very strange for my parents, who didn't really know the language, and yet they, I'm here and I'm speaking English, and they're, well, my dad passed away, but my mom is still doing fine, and it's always a challenge. Is there a little bit of you guys in this movie? I mean, is there?
This story about migration, because yes, I was born in Brazil and my parents moved to France, then to Belgium, and I come back to France, then to Belgium, and they are also Jewish, so there is a lot of stories of migration. And what was very surprising for us is that the migrants today, when we saw them in the camp, they didn't have suitcases, because like Shahin, when they cross by land or by sea, they have to throw away their suitcase, so they have only bag, and it's quite different. And the difference also is the connection. They all have phones and talk to their family who stay in their native country. So I think that the feeling of distance, of exile, of separation is not the same. And yes, but you know, the movie, it's not only about, because as Shahin, when we visit him in England, after meeting him in Greece, and he was really totally a different person, so sad while he was so joyful, hopeful, curious. He was tense and mistrustful. So he remained locked in his room, observing the outside world almost only through internet. And so the experience of this young refugee is kind of expanded to our experience, especially after the confinement with the pandemic, that we all have this experience of so connected isolation, and that we see a lot this world through the screens, through the image. So there is something like that, which is another level that was important for us.
Cool. Ashley?
So there's a lot of security camera footage of workers. Is there a reason why you chose the footage of security cameras instead of going into the places and filming yourselves?
Well, it was at the base of the project to use this surveillance camera. It echoes the concrete situation of Shahin in England, locked in his room and watching the world through the net, mostly a live webcam, and among them surveillance one. And also it refers to his entire journey through a world that is so open, but at the same time, so controlled and divided. So it was a way to look again at this world through this image, and to try at the same time, because this image, we have to work with them and against them. We have to steal them from the initial function, surveillance. And while we perceive them usually as cold, impersonal, poor, we found that with a passionate attention, focusing the details, you can bring back in them, in those type of footage, a warmth, presence, a burst of reality, the most sensitive. So we got news of the world, and it was strange because it was for us a very unusual shooting. It was not shooting on the field. It was not even holding a camera, but we have the deep feeling that we were in a field, that we were immersed, that we observed things that no one told us. And yes, it was a special experience.
So your film is a collage film of sorts. A collage where you take information from the web to piece together this kind of interior workings of Shaheen as he makes his way in this interior journey, right? Because it's an internal journey. But yeah, we are voyeurs, and the security camera footage makes it seem as if we are privileged viewers into his life, and we see what he sees. Is that?
We see what he can see, what he could see, but we explore, Isabelle and I, the net freely. Right. But we really try to use in a different way this type of image, and it's not. We didn't try to illustrate Shaheen's journey, but to find another kind of relationship between sound and image. For example, texture relationship or emotion sensation relationship. So, and so it echoes Shahin's journey, and Shahin's thoughts and feeling also are projected to people we see, as we hope that the audience can also find echoes of their own feelings, memories, and so it's not, yes, it's not there is a gap between image and sound, but there is some echoes and relationship between them.
It's wonderful. I mean, you asked me, I think that there's elements, there's certain things that I notice that we go through all the different types of, you know, meteorological changes where we go from sun to snow to rain, and we go through the seasons. And so there is a kind of cyclical nature that I got after watching it the second time. I didn't get that the first time. And I think this is a film that needs to be watched many times over, I think, and it will bear fruit with each repeated viewing. And that's, I found the same thing with Uncertain Times. The more I watched it, the more I was able to get the subtleties and I mean, in many ways, as a compliment, I find your film Baroque. And because it's so dense, there's so much information. But if you're an archaeologist viewer and you know, kind of dig away at the surface, you're able to see the path that you wanted to take in this film. I mean, we'll never know exactly what that path is, but we get closer to, you know, the initial desires of the filmmaker.
But you see, what you said about the season, it was something that was very much in our mind. Because it's through the net, but the more sensitive things like a rain falling, the sun showing up, you can see it through those kind of image.
Yeah,
you can feel it, and because it's through this kind of image, it's become like a miracle. The rain falling is again something happening.
Yeah.
The sun exploding, it's again an event.
We have time for one more, Ashley.
So what do you think is the importance of telling a refugee story?
What do you think is important?
Why? You say why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No.
Why it is important? I think it's not only important to tell a story of a refugee and hear from the inside, but how you tell it. Because we are surrounded by lots of images about migrants and refugees. And sometimes we have the impression that we know all about it. And also the way we tell stories about refugee, usually we focus on the dramatic events that are true, but then we forget all the wide range of effects they go through. And also then we point them like migrants while they are persons with their complexity, they hollow things, and so I want to answer in different ways to your question, because always is not how to tell, but how you tell. But to tell the refugee is important to make people feel the wide desire that they bring, the deception they can face, the adversity, but that here, I mean, in our countries, France, the United States, Belgium, we move a lot, we migrate, but we don't see the link between us and between them and us. Sure, they condition to move, it's not the same, it's quite difficult. But we always, and it is requested that, for example, to have the statute of refugee, your life has to be in danger. But if you actually want to move for another state or another country, do you need this request? You need just a lot of things, and some you don't know. Maybe escape, I don't know, a love story. Maybe you have other dreams. Maybe you feel contained in your surrenders. So it's a way to try not just an information, but to feel what you go through. And also for us, Shahin is not just a migrant, but a young man and a young person, change all the time, and change like that. He changed in the course of his journey, and because all he go through, but just because he is young. And this complexity of people, this way to change, to want to be this, and then you want to be that, and how you look at things. This way to change a bit how people see what is different from them and what is the same. Because it's very amazing how it's not what you think. There are differences, but there are things that the same, and the difference are not where you think at first. It's what we felt when we went to this camp refugee. We felt that the configuration that we want the audience and us at first to meet the other before having any kind of thought or feeling. Meet first, and when you meet first, you don't know what to think. Ashley, I don't know yet what to think about you. I'm just feeling and looking how you smile, when you smile,
and at the same time, it's not, as you say, Shahin is not strictly and only a refugee, and probably we decided to do the film because of him, because he was
special.
He was special. He was not trying to, what we say in France, serve the soup, which means that people, and in documentary it sometimes happen, people just tell you what they think that you are expecting. And Shahin was at this all the time surprising. He was himself, very much himself. And that's what we loved in him, and that's why we want to do something about his life for those two years of wandering in Europe.
And also Shahin always talk with a personal point of view. He doesn't say general things. He always is very precise with little details, and yeah, we appreciate that.
In a documentary, it's a chance. It's a chance.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, folks, you absolutely have to come and see this film, and I'm going to show you how you can purchase tickets to do that. I'm going to share screen for a second. We're all Zoom pros now, right? By default. And okay, normally folks would be typing in our email address or web address, which is on this placard that fell before, and it's going to fall again, njfilmfest.com. And so you go to this location and you will click on where it says New Jersey Film Festival Fall 2021 schedule. Now, normally everything would be here, but because we are doing a hybrid festival, which is, you know, being streamed as well as doing live, that you need to go to our Eventive site, which has all the information you need. So you click on any one of these blue links, and that will take you to our catalog page, where all the films that we're screening will pop up. And all you need to do is to just click on the link, and Ailleurs Partout is part of our opening weekend, which is a very prestigious position in our schedule. And you would just click on this, and you could pre-order tickets. So you just click on this. And I must mention that the film is also playing with Spinal, which is about this young filmmaker from Norway who suffers from a spinal disease that makes him very incapacitated. And, you know, my job as the curator is to make connections between films that the judges select. And, you know, we picked 20 films out of over 400. So we're showing the best of the films that we received. And these two films somehow spoke to each other. And one's a short film, Spinal is about 5 minutes, and Ailleurs Partout is feature length. And you can get more information. Here's Isabelle and Vivianne and Shaheen Parsa is also credited, and I hope you will join us for this wonderful program. In order for you to check out more about our festival, you can click back to the festival site, and you can see the schedule in linear form if you choose to see it that way. And you go down and you get to see information that way. You just click on the link to get tickets. You can watch what we're offering by just clicking on the film itself. And that's basically how you can check out what we're offering. You click on tickets to get back to the catalog page, and that's how you can get information about all the wonderful programs that we're screening. All right, I'm gonna stop to share since we've reached the end of our Q&A. I wanna thank you both for joining us. Vivianne, are you guys in Belgium now or in France?
In France.
South of France.
South of France, very cool. I used to live in Aix-en-Provence, one of my favorite cities. And well, it was wonderful to join you again, and I hope to see you guys in the near future. Hopefully COVID will be gone next year, and make sure you send us your new film. I know you're working on a film about an American, Native American, and that's going to be something we look forward to. Ashley, thanks for joining us as well, and hope to see everybody at the movies. Thank you.
And happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Thank you. 40 years. Okay, see you guys.
Fabulous.